What's going, everybody? It's TCA Notaku here, and we're back for another deck profile, as you can see by the Kakashi mat right here. So this time, I'm gonna try to make this one real fast paced and quick, because the last one seemed like it was quite tedious. So what we have right here is Nova Grapplers, and this is our nice Victor Rush deck. As you can see by these beautiful sleeves that I've talked about before. This is a complete deck in my opinion. This one I also brought to regionals. It did fairly well. 2 wins, 3 losses, and I lost against Link Joker, Aquaforce, and forgot the last one. I think it was Kagero or something like that. But anyway, you get the idea. It's basically the deck works when it does, and when it's not supposed to, it's not. So it all makes sense, I guess. So let's go and get right into this one. So the first card of the deck we have right here is the starter right here, Kabutron. A lot of people are choosing this one as their starter now, just because of the fact that it gets you that 2K for the restand, and it's fairly cheap. It's only Counterblast, but popping the soul is really nice. The only other starter that I could see running right now is the it's the one from GBT10. It is the Petite Ace. The only problem with Petite Ace is it doesn't give you Soul, which the upcoming cards will need. So, starter right there. Next up, we have 4 copies of the Signature Grade 3 Excessive Battler Victor. So, if you don't know what Excessive Battler Victor does, it's GB2 Rush, front row. It's not front row, but it's rear guard circle. And when it restands, so when it taps and stands back up, the entire front row gets plus 2,000 power. This is really nice when you have your 9K units on the other rearguard circles, and then it bumps them up to 11 so that they hit magical numbers a lot easier. This one I do run as the signature, just because of the fact of the Soul Blast is a little bit hard to manage at times, but it helps with your counterblast usage so that your strides and your other cards use them more than the Vanguard does, and that helps the deck feel a lot smoother in my opinion. It may not feel as power intensive, but it comes out in the end. And you run enough units with the Rush ability, and then you run cards that give the Rush ability, so you really don't have a problem with the requirement of Rush too often. Next up, we're running 3 copies of course, the other Victor. The point that makes him much better is that his GB2 is Vanguard Circle. When he attacks, you stand rearguard, gets plus 5. So if you're having one of those games where you just can't stride, you're not screwed over. You have something that you can still do. The problem with this one is that it's Counterblast 1 to stand 1 unit and give plus 5. I feel like that when you stand a rear guard behind another unit, that you'll get more power in the long run, because let's say it's a 7K grade 1. It could help you get to magical numbers a lot easier. So that's just my opinion. But still, of course, you always want that Victor Heart, or the Victor name in this case, so you still want to run him at least as a 3 of. Next, of course, as not a surprise here, we're running 4 copies. Well, not 4 copies, but 4 heals in the deck for the triggers. I'm not running all 4 copies of the effect heal, just because of one, they're like $1, and I didn't pull all of them. But the second thing is his ability doesn't proc off that often, and I don't really go to the unflipping G guard that often either, so it's not a really big thing. Wall Boy is just the boy. You can't say no. I would much rather prefer this than having Toughness Jane. Well, I mean, Toughness Jane's not bad. I just rather have the boy. Next up, we got running 6 crits, 3 reds, and 3 break pass. They both do good things for the deck. I just could not find myself to run one at one and one at the other. Oh man, we just had a little lag. That's okay though. So when you have break pass, it gives power and soul, and red gives you soul and counter charge. So they both give you what you want, and then they just doom effectively. So it's really up to you on what you want to do. I just found that this is good. 6 is a really good number for crits. You pop them off quite nicely. I would not recommend running 4-4 because then it hinders the next trigger, which is coming up, which I'm pretty sure you guys can guess. Which is, let's see, we got our tasty 6 draw triggers and our 2 the gongs because they're the gong. So for this, the draw triggers are mostly for favorite champ Victor. I mean, aside from that, it's really nice because Nova Grapplers don't search at all. I don't think I have a single searching card in the entire deck. And so if you need those cards in your hand, you have to get them by hand. So these draw triggers might screw you over. That's okay, though. This is a nice glass cannon. You want to draw, though, so this is the best way to do it. So damage check the draw, you know, everything. Any way you can help it is the best way. So next we got grade 1s here. Running as a little bit of a fill. 2 copies of Furious Puncher. This guy's really good because he's got his GB1 stand rush, so he's a rush target to stand the column. 1. 2, it's when he stands, choose a different unit, not him, +5. That's completely fine. Yeah, I can't choose him. Whoop-de-doo. I choose the unit in the other column or in the column in front of him. It's just there's no point in saying that this is a bad card. His act ability is not meant to be used in this deck just because it's meant to be used with Petite Ace. But that's fine. I was thinking about running him as a 3 of, but taking down my grade 2 count. That one is just some playtesting on your own. I found that 2 was a good number though. Next up, not surprising about this one, 3 stride enablers. This helps you get your good victors if you don't got them. If you want the other victor because of situations, then you go and get the other one. And then it's Alexis Stride. Nothing else you can really talk about that one. Then we got one of the best cards in the entire deck. You got the grade 1 Meliaki right here. Meliaki is insane. This card probably is the only reason this deck is still floating. I mean, that's probably an overstatement, but it's a really good card. It not only gives a unit in the column rush, so that means that all cards that don't have rush now do. So then you can still restand the column. It is when the unit that is given this ability, so if there's a unit in front of it, if it itself does not get the rush ability, then when it stands, you give 2 units +4. Well, it's not when it stands. It's when it stands and then attacks. But since it's red text, it stacks. So, I mean, you've heard this from a ton of other places, but it's just stacks. So you can sit there and say, hey, yeah, I attack in 36k here, 36k here. It's great. Really good card. I do not see you running anything lower than that. Next, we have the last grade 1 of the deck. The Perfect Guard. This one I've seen as a big controversy here. I'm running Headstrong Battle. It really helps out. You know, yeah, Counterblast is a little bit of a situation, but I don't think you use it enough to go and say that it's a scary problem to run Lady Cyclone. So what this helps you with is not only is it, you know, a PG, of course, but his second ability is what's really nice because it's the give a unit, you know, Counterblast 1, move to the Guardian Circle +10k to the shield. Yes, you lose a rear guard, but it really helps out because when you're discarding cards from your hand, you really don't want to do that too much. And so this is one of those things where you guard the Vanguard, and then let's say they have 1 strong attack left. It's to mostly just help feel it smooth out that turn. You can run Lady Cyclone instead if you find that this isn't useful, but I found that this came in a lot more handy than Lady Cyclone did. But that just might be me. On to the grade 2s. We are running 2 copies of Bare Knuckle Ernest. Bare Knuckle Ernest is really nice card. You know, in this time his abilities do proc off and stuff like that. So for example, his auto ability is on placement. You Soul Blast 1, which is kind of heavy in this deck, but that's fine. And then you rest him to draw another card. But his other abilities, what's nice is because when I forgot to say that when you go and rest him, you have to rest another unit instead of him as well. So you have to rest 2. So it's basically Street Bouncer from back in the day, except it costs a Soul Blast as well. The good part about it is act, retire this unit, stand a different unit. So what you do is you rest one of your units with the rush ability, you go and draw the card, and then you retire this thing, and then you get to go and activate rush for absolutely nothing, and you haven't even attacked yet. Really nice combo with him, and also draw power, why not? So, 2 copies of it's pretty nice. And then we got the cool guy, Cool Hank. I'm running him as a 3 of. Yes, he does not have the rush ability. That is correct. But he's still a really good user of Counterblast and gets nice stands in. It does start getting into weird numbers because he himself does not get the like 2K, so he's an 11K. So you usually want to have like some kind of 7K behind him, which really isn't a problem. Because the only not grade 1 that is a 7K, that isn't a 7K is the PG, and you probably don't want to be calling that anyway. So he helps you get most of your combos off. There is other cards that do it a little bit better than he does, but you know, in the case that you still need to, good use, good target, and it's Cool Hank. I mean, he's the coolest guy around. I don't think you can say no to him. Next, we got the staples left in the deck. So we got the 4 copies of Arboreal. This is the better card to get your stands off and combos off because of the sole fact that he gets plus 2K to himself. That sounds a little dumb. I don't care. Literally, it may cost a soul and counterblast, but he gets plus 2K, and then when he attacks once a turn, stand a unit. So you can call this guy a solo. So you can keep cards in hand for, let's say, a favorite champ turn, and then just stand your other units so you can keep on getting these multi-attacks off. And so I think that he's just a really strong card. The only thing that really makes him a little bit sad is that his restand is once a turn, but if it wasn't, then I have no idea how they would balance it otherwise. So, still a good card. And then you have the main the beat stick. The main card you want all your other cards to support, and this thing is amazing, and that is the new card Severed Temper. It's not really new, but it was the April promo. These things have gone down in price quite a bit, so they're pretty easy to obtain. But he's got the rush ability. He's got the Sazanda at GB2, which is you know, it means you have to flip something on your first stride, but that's not really a big deal anymore because that's what most decks do. And then his GB1, when your drive check reveals a grade 3, you go and choose a unit in your opponent's front row that has less than or equal to this unit's power, which is, at least by first stand, every card in the game, and you retire it. So it makes you feel like Dimensional Police. It's pretty fun. It's that cheeky one retire. I think that it's a nice touch. But you mostly run him for the stand plus 5K with the rush. You could run Sazanda. It is GB1. The only reason why I don't is because it doesn't have the rush ability. That's literally the only downside to it. You could run Cool Hank as a 2 of, Sazanda as a 1 of, you know, I don't know. That requires some more testing of mine, but I feel like this card is a little bit superior to the Sazanda in this case, so just my opinion. After that, we go to the G-Zone. First, we're going to start off with some G-Guards here. So, this might be some shocker to some people, but I run 6 G-Guards. This number is not permanent in any way, shape, or form. This is just what I've been using, and I found that this is the most comfortable. Because when you're pitching heals for the G-Guard, Nova Grappler does not have a very good, oh yeah, go to it G-Guard. Unyor is good if you're low on resources, but really, I only was hitting that when I was not experienced with the deck. The Unflipping G-Guard is good. It doesn't cost anything, but it doesn't increase its shield value at all. It only countercharges. Screw is, you know, Cryomental, which I go and talk about. And then you have Blue Prism, the only consistent G-Guard in the entire Nova Grappler arsenal, in my opinion. And you have to have had more or do have at least the same amount of damage as your opponent to get only 5K. when you need to shield to go and guard, you don't have that. So that's why you run the Screw and the Rectome. In my opinion, I would rather run Dismal, but Dismals I've found that it's almost better to let them be retired in the long run. But you know, that's just my opinion. Also, I'd probably want to take out an Unyor for one of those. I could also see you not even running the Unflipping G-Guard and running it as 4 or 5 to go and open up some space, because we do have a somewhat tight G-zone. But I found that the Metal, the Rectome, and then the 4 were a good match. After that, we get to the normal strides. I run, for just for the tool, 1 copy of Tri-Brute. Tri-Brute's really good for those decks like if you're facing Luard and you have first stride, or even if you have second stride, it's really handy to go and take out their backfield that they go and try to protect. Because if they don't have anything to retire to get their 2, that means they have to start sacrificing from their hand, which if they're playing it right, it's not the biggest deal. But it's still, it's the +2's fine. Just against some decks, it's nice to have that retiring factor, and here it is. This is also why you don't want to run cards that eat up all your counterblast nowadays, because he eats up a ton. Next we have 2 copies of Victoplasm. This number I kind of want to change, but as right now it's only as a 2 of, because I found that 2 was fine. I only used him some matches. Even at regionals, there was times I wish I ran 2 copies more, but it was overall a solid number. The one thing I want to bring up in this, and it's your little sneak peek of why you go and join you listen to this video, but I was given a little tip when I was at regionals, and you can actually go to him first stride. Yes, his ability does say you have to have 2 face-up cards in the G-zone face-up before he gets red text, but you have the thing where it's Counterblast 2, flip a copy, act. It does not say once a turn. That does sound dumb. I Counterblast 4 first stride, and I flip up 2 copies just to go and hit 1 activation, which means you can only run 3 copies, and that's it. That does sound dumb. But you know what? I think that it would be pretty funny. I would probably want to try it out. I'm going to probably get my hands on another copy and give it a go, because I think that having him as first stride would be a huge advantage, because your first stride right now is not the best choice. I feel bad going into him first stride. It does counterblast 4 if you want to go into him first stride, but I mean, you countercharge so much with the G guards and everything else, so you should be okay. But that's yeah. I mean, there's not. I mean, he's your answer for all them retire clans, but there's not much you can do. And then we have our 4 of staple. I feel like you always got to is Meteor Kaiser Victor. Meteor Kaiser Victor. Whew, man, he's so good. Only problem is he has 2 restrictions. Well, the first is you have to hit, and the second thing is GB3. You do go to him first stride, sadly. So when you go to him first stride, you flip up a copy, GB2 is active, so that your Severed Tempers and everything like that get their rush. It's what you got to do. There's nothing else that really goes and gets you GB2 efficiently in this deck unless you G-guard and then you stride. So it's just what you have to do. His on-hit is, stand, rear guard +5, which is, it's good. It gives you a little on-hit pressure. But the problem with it is it's not guaranteed. The good part about him is he's absolutely free. Because of him in the deck and using Soul, you don't use much Counterblast at all, which is why I'm a little tempted to use that, Counterblast for the restanding first stride. But for now, he's first stride, and the GB3 is fine. You're going to get to it eventually, but we'll see how it goes. Next up, we got 1 copy of Seabreeze. It's Seabreeze. If you don't know what Seabreeze does, you have not played this game long enough. It's a GB deck. There's nothing else I can say about it. I hope that they make one that restands if your opponent's GB1. That's all I want, because I'm not running Twiddle Run, because Twiddle Run is a waste of space. And then the last 2 cards of the deck is 2 copies of the main guy, the boy. It is favorite champ Victor. This thing is what makes this deck insanely good. If it wasn't for him, I don't know. I don't know where we'd be. So his skill is not once a turn. I'm sure everyone here has known that at least, but it's, so easy to get to. It's literally you go Meteor Kaiser first stride, G guard, and bam, you're him. You could go to him second stride, third stride. You can go and see that I don't run the GB8. The only reason I don't is because of him. You win or you lose. Because if you go to him and you go and you just discard your entire hand and they still live, let's say they go from 3 damage to 5 damage and they miracle heal, then you're screwed. You basically just fold right there because there's nothing you can do. But the good thing about him is that it's optional, so if it's looking dim you can bail out, which is why you run 2 copies of him. But the other reason is if you're running against a retire deck, which of course the meta is extremely retire deck right now, you could sit there and have everything ready, full counterblasts, your Severed Temper, Malayaki columns, everything's looking good. You attack, Denial Griffin. You attack, you get the unflipping G guard for Norakami. You get, the locking G guard for, I was about to say Dark Regulars. Woo. You have the other Link Joker. Oh my gosh, I don't know how I forgot that one. But they just if they mess up your formation during the first attempt, I recommend just bailing. Just get out of there and don't even activate his skill, because the moment that you try to salvage a favorite champ Victor turn, it turns into the turn where it looks like you're wasting so much of your material and you're not gonna win. You could sit there and be like, I'm still restaying my Vanguard, but you're not getting that, Severed Temper buff. You're not getting the Malayaki buffs or anything like that, and it's just bare. So that's why you run 2, just in case if you run that. You could run it as a 1-of. You can take it down to 1. That's fine. And then this could be your third copy of Victoplasm, but that's up to you. So that's everything for the Nova Grappler deck profile. If you have any questions or recommendations for me, leave them in the comments below. I will be going and doing some more stuff next Friday. I was not able to go and fit it in for this week. There's just a lot of stuff that came up, and I'm trying to go and learn how to go and do some special stuff. So with that, I'll see you guys in the next video. See you guys later. Bye. Right,